From time to time, America faces the same crisis. The government shuts down, national parks close, workers are sent home, and the world's largest economy suddenly hits pause. And behind it all is one Senate rule. A rule so powerful it can block budgets, stall legislation, and bring the government itself to a halt. It's called the filibuster. If you enjoy learning how history shapes today's politics, make sure to subscribe. It helps the channel reach more curious minds like you. The filibuster isn't written in the Constitution. The founders never mentioned it. In fact, it started by accident. Back in the early 19th century, Vice President Aaron Burr reviewed the Senate's rulebook and suggested removing something called the previous question motion. That rule allowed a simple majority to end debate and call a vote. Burr thought it was unnecessary. The Senate agreed and deleted it. By doing so, they unintentionally removed the only way to stop debate. And without a way to end debate, senators could now talk indefinitely. The filibuster was born. For decades, it wasn't a major issue. Senators rarely abused it. But as national divisions deepened in the 19th century, the filibuster became a tool to stall contentious legislation. It was used to delay votes, drain time, and pressure opponents. During the early 20th century, that obstruction reached a breaking point. When a small group of senators used the filibuster to block legislation during World War I, President Woodrow Wilson accused them of endangering the nation. In response, the Senate created the cloture rule, allowing debate to be cut off if 2/3 of senators voted to end it. If cloture is successful, debate on that bill or nomination ends after up to 30 more hours of limited discussion. Once those hours expire, the Senate must take a final vote. A successful cloture motion guarantees that the Senate will eventually vote on the matter instead of letting it die through endless delay. Even then, the filibuster continued to shape history. Throughout much of the 20th century, it was often used to block civil rights legislation. Southern senators launched marathon speeches to delay bills that aimed to end segregation. One of the most famous examples was Senator Strom Thurmond's record-breaking 24-hour speech against the Civil Rights Act. Eventually, the Senate reformed the rule again. The cloture threshold was lowered from 2/3 to 3/5, meaning 60 votes are now required to end debate on most bills. That's how it remains today. But the modern version of the filibuster no longer requires endless talking. Senators can simply signal their intent to filibuster, and that alone forces a 60-vote threshold. This silent filibuster transformed what was once a rare dramatic event into an everyday political weapon. That same rule is one reason government shutdowns can happen. Each year, Congress must pass appropriations bills to fund the government. If the Senate can't reach 60 votes to end debate, those bills can stall, and when funding expires, federal agencies lose their authority to spend money. There are exceptions. A process called budget reconciliation allows certain fiscal bills to pass with a simple majority, 51 votes, instead of 60. It's how major tax and spending laws have been approved in recent decades. But reconciliation can only affect taxes, spending, or the debt limit. It can't provide new appropriations for the day-to-day operation of government. So even though reconciliation avoids the filibuster, it can't prevent a shutdown. When Congress reaches a funding impasse, lawmakers often turn to a temporary measure called a continuing resolution. It keeps funding at current levels for a short period and buys time for negotiation. But if even that fails, agencies close, federal workers are furloughed, and parts of the economy slow down. Over the years, many have called for reform, or even for the elimination of the filibuster entirely. Supporters of repeal argue that the Senate has become dysfunctional. They say the filibuster blocks progress, prevents action on popular policies, and allows a small minority to overrule the will of the majority. Critics point out that the rule isn't part of the Constitution and that other legislative bodies function without it. But defenders of the filibuster see it differently. They argue that it forces cooperation and protects the rights of the minority party. They believe it prevents rash decisions and keeps the Senate true to its design as a slower, more deliberative chamber. Could the Senate eliminate it completely? Technically, yes. The Senate sets its own rules, and a simple majority could change them. This is sometimes called the nuclear option. It's been used before, partially. In 2013, under Majority Leader Harry Reid, Democrats used it to end the filibuster for most presidential nominations, except those for the Supreme Court. In 2017, under Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Republicans expanded that change to include Supreme Court nominees. But for ordinary legislation and for appropriations bills, the 60-vote rule still stands. So why hasn't the Senate gone further? Because both parties understand that power shifts. The filibuster may frustrate the majority today, but it protects them when they become the minority tomorrow. It's a rule that angers everyone and benefits everyone too. And so, the filibuster survives. A rule born by accident, shaped by history, and sustained by politics. It began as a quirk of Senate procedure and became one of the most consequential features of American government. The rule meant to encourage debate now often prevents it, and the tool meant to protect the minority has, at times, paralyzed the majority. Whether it endures or is eventually abolished, one thing is certain. The filibuster will continue to shape how and if the United States governs itself. Thanks for watching. If you learned something new, don't forget to subscribe. It helps the channel grow and brings you more stories where history meets politics. Until next time, stay curious.